The invitation arrived on a rainy Tuesday, its golden edges glinting under the dim light of Sofia Marquez's desk lamp. She flipped it over in her hands, her heart heavy with a mixture of dread and curiosity. Inside the envelope, the elegantly scripted words announced what she had feared. Her father, Fernando Marquez, the tycoon who had built his empire with an iron will, was hosting a gala to celebrate his engagement to Isabel, a woman Sofia barely tolerated. The announcement felt like a slap in the face, delivered through formal stationery instead of the personal conversation she longed for but never expected. Sofia dropped the invitation on the glass table and leaned back, staring at the city skyline beyond her apartment windows. The rain blurred the glittering lights of Sao Paulo, transforming the bustling metropolis into an abstract painting. She used to admire the view when she was younger, imagining the world she would conquer. But now, at 27, she felt trapped in a life that seemed smaller than she had once dreamed. Her phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was a message from Miguel, her chauffeur. "Car is ready, Miss Marquez." She grabbed her purse and the invitation, slipping it into her bag as she left the apartment. The sleek black sedan waited at the curb, Miguel standing dutifully by the door with an umbrella in hand. "Good evening, Miss Marquez," he said with his usual calm professionalism, shielding her from the rain as she slid into the backseat. As the car glided through the wet streets, Sofia stared out the window, her thoughts racing. She couldn't ignore the hurt Isabel's presence had brought into her life. The woman was cunning, always working to tighten her grip on Fernando and edge Sofia out. "Miguel," she said suddenly, her voice cutting through the hum of the engine. "Yes, Miss Marquez? If you needed to prove something to someone who had written you off, what would you do?" Miguel glanced at her through the rearview mirror, his dark eyes thoughtful. "I suppose it depends on who that person is and whether their opinion is worth it." Sofia smirked, though the comment stung more than she cared to admit. "Let's say it's someone important, someone who doesn't see your value." Miguel paused before answering. "Then I'd make sure they couldn't ignore me, but I wouldn't change who I am to do it." His response lingered in Sofia's mind as they pulled up to a cafe where she often retreated to think. The rain had eased, leaving the streets shimmering under the city lights. Sofia stepped out, her heels clicking on the wet pavement, and motioned for Miguel to join her inside. Sofia led the way into the cafe, selecting a corner booth away from the bustling crowd. Miguel followed, unsure of what to expect. He had worked for Sofia for over 2 years, long enough to recognize her moods. But tonight, something was different. She seemed restless, as if on the verge of making a decision she hadn't fully thought through. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the seat opposite her. Miguel complied, folding his hands on the table as Sofia leaned forward, her eyes sharp and focused. "I need your help," she began, her tone direct. Miguel raised an eyebrow. "Of course, Miss Marquez. What do you need?" "I need someone to accompany me to a gala this weekend," she said, sliding the invitation across the table. Miguel frowned as he read it. "Your father's engagement party?" "Yes," Sofia replied, her voice clipped. "And I don't want to go alone. I need a partner. Someone who can make an impression." Miguel's confusion deepened. "You have plenty of friends who fit that description." "Why me?" "Because I don't want someone from that world," Sofia explained. "I want someone genuine, someone who will stand out without trying to. And you fit the part perfectly." Miguel leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. "Miss Marquez, I'm your chauffeur, not an actor." "This isn't about acting," Sofia countered. "It's about presence. You have a way of carrying yourself. Calm, confident. People notice that." He sighed, glancing at the invitation again. "And what exactly would this arrangement entail?" "You'll accompany me as my partner for the evening," Sofia said. "I'll handle everything, your attire, etiquette training, whatever you need. You just have to show up, look the part, and keep Isabel and her vultures guessing." Miguel hesitated. The proposal sounded absurd, but the amount Sofia mentioned made him pause. His thoughts drifted to the overdue rent notice on his kitchen counter and the tuition fees he had abandoned years ago. "All right," he said finally. "I'll do it." but only because I owe you for giving me this job. Sophia smiled, a flicker of relief crossing her face. Thank you, Miguel. I promise, it'll be worth it. The next morning, Miguel found himself thrust into a whirlwind of preparations. Sophia had arranged for him to meet with stylists at an exclusive boutique in Jardins, Sao Paulo's most upscale neighborhood. The boutique was a world away from Miguel's usual haunts. Chandeliers cast a soft glow over racks of designer suits, and the air was filled with the faint scent of expensive cologne. Stand up straight, one of the stylists commanded, as Miguel tried on a sleek navy suit. This is ridiculous, he muttered under his breath, pulling at the stiff fabric. Sophia, perched on a nearby chaise lounge, crossed her legs and smirked. Stop complaining. You'll thank me when you see the look on Isabel's face. Miguel sighed, adjusting his tie as the tailor fussed over the fit. You're really going all out for this. Of course, Sophia said, her tone light but tinged with determination. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. As the day wore on, Miguel began to see the cracks in Sophia's carefully constructed facade. Despite her confidence, there was a vulnerability in her eyes, a quiet desperation to prove herself. That evening, as Sophia sat alone in her apartment, she stared at a framed photo of herself and Fernando from years ago. In the picture, they were laughing, carefree, and connected in a way they hadn't been in years. She set the photo down with a sigh, her resolve hardening. This gala wasn't just about showing Isabel up. It was about reclaiming the sense of belonging she had lost. Meanwhile, Miguel returned to his modest apartment, feeling like a stranger in his own skin. He stood before the mirror, the tailored suit hanging neatly in his closet. The man in the reflection looked polished, almost unrecognizable. He couldn't shake the feeling that this night would change more than just Sophia's relationship with her family. It would challenge everything he thought he knew about himself. The boutique buzzed with activity as Sophia's plan took shape. The stylists fluttered around Miguel like bees to honey, armed with tape measures, fabric swatches, and an endless stream of opinions. He stood on a low platform, arms outstretched, as one stylist pinned a jacket to fit his broad shoulders. Keep still, the head stylist snapped, a petite woman with an air of command that rivaled Sophia's. I'm trying, Miguel replied, his patience wearing thin. Sophia leaned against a chaise longue, a satisfied smile tugging at her lips. Miguel, you look uncomfortable already, and we haven't even started on etiquette lessons. He shot her a glare through the mirror. I'm a chauffeur, not a mannequin. You're a vital part of this plan, she countered. You agreed to help me make a statement, and we're going to do it right. The head stylist stepped back and adjusted her glasses, examining Miguel like an artist critiquing a sculpture. He needs something sharp but understated. We want sophistication, not a circus act. Miguel snorted softly. Good to know I'm not a clown in this scenario. The tailor chuckled, but quickly stifled it under the stylist's glare. Focus, please, she commanded. Later that evening, Sophia was waiting in her apartment when Miguel arrived, a garment bag slung over his shoulder. She had insisted on seeing the final result before the gala. He stepped into the living room, the overhead lights casting a warm glow over the space. Well, he asked, standing awkwardly as Sophia studied him. The transformation was remarkable. The tailored suit accentuated his height and build, while the crisp white shirt and sleek tie gave him an air of quiet confidence. You look, Sophia paused, struggling for the right words. Like someone who belongs. Miguel raised an eyebrow. That's not a compliment I'm used to. It's the truth, she said, her voice softer now. You'll make them look twice, Miguel. That's all I need. For a moment, the weight of their arrangement hung between them. Miguel broke the silence with a slight smile. Just tell me you've hired someone to teach me how to hold a champagne glass without embarrassing you. Sophia laughed, the sound genuine and unexpected. Tomorrow, be ready. The day of the gala arrived, and Sophia's nerves were barely contained beneath her composed exterior. She sat in front of her vanity, watching the makeup artist's steady hands transform her features. The elegant dress she had chosen, black with delicate beading that caught the light, hung on the wardrobe door, a symbol of the role she would play tonight. Across the city, Miguel was experiencing his own transformation. A professional groomer worked on his hair while an etiquette coach gave rapid-fire instructions. Posture, Miguel. And remember, eye contact is confidence. By the time they met at Sophia's apartment, the metamorphosis was complete. Sophia stood in her living room, dressed and ready, when Miguel stepped in. He paused, taking in her appearance with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "You look stunning," he said, the words escaping before he could stop them. Sophia turned, her lips curving into a smile. "And you look the part," she replied, her tone lighter than it had been all week. The drive to the venue was quiet, the tension palpable. Sophia stared out the window, mentally rehearsing her approach. Miguel, sensing her unease, broke the silence. "Do you have a plan for tonight?" Sophia exhaled. "The plan is to be seen, to make them wonder. If I can throw Isabel off her game, even better." Miguel nodded. "Then let's do this." At the gala, the grandeur of the venue was almost overwhelming. Chandeliers cast golden light over marble floors, and the air was filled with the soft hum of conversation and clinking glasses. As Sophia and Miguel entered, heads turned. Sophia's dress shimmered with each step, and Miguel's composed demeanor exuded a quiet authority. Whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. "Who's that with her? I heard she brought someone outside the usual circles." Sophia kept her head high, her confidence bolstered by Miguel's steady presence. She spotted Isabel across the room, surrounded by a group of sycophants, her laugh grating even from a distance. Isabel's smile faltered when her eyes landed on Sophia. She excused herself and approached, her expression polite but laced with curiosity. "Sophia," Isabel said, her voice dripping with full warmth. "I'm so glad you could make it. And who is this?" Before Sophia could respond, Miguel extended a hand. "Miguel Silva," he said, his voice steady. "A pleasure to meet you." Isabel's eyes flickered with surprise before she masked it. What an unexpected guest. I didn't realize Sophia had expanded her social circle. Sophia smiled sweetly. "I find that genuine people are far more refreshing than the usual crowd." Isabel's lips tightened, but she quickly recovered. "Well, I hope you both enjoy the evening. It promises to be memorable." As she walked away, Sophia turned to Miguel. "She's already trying to figure you out." "Let her try," Miguel said with a small smirk. "I don't have anything to hide." Dinner and subtle battles. Seated at a long table with Fernando, Isabel, and a collection of high-profile guests, Sophia found herself navigating a minefield of subtle jabs and veiled comments. Isabel, avid strategist, dropped pointed remarks about family loyalty and the importance of maintaining appearances. Miguel, to Sophia's surprise, handled himself with poise, deflecting Isabel's remarks with measured responses. His composure earned him the attention of the table, and even Fernando seemed intrigued. At one point, Fernando leaned over to Sophia. "Your guest is interesting." Sophia met his gaze, her voice calm. "He's more than that, Father. He's someone who reminds me of what matters." Fernando's expression was unreadable, but Sophia knew she had planted a seed of doubt in Isabel's carefully constructed narrative. The gala continued as the evening unfolded, each moment more calculated than the last. Sophia kept her head high, her movements graceful yet deliberate. Every step she took with Miguel by her side was a message. She was not to be underestimated. As the music shifted to a softer melody, guests mingled between the dining hall and the balcony overlooking Sao Paulo's skyline. Sophia stood near a table laden with crystal glasses of champagne, engaging in light conversation with a group of business acquaintances. Miguel stayed a step behind her, observing the room with a calm yet vigilant demeanor. "I must say, Sophia," one of the women remarked, her tone equal parts admiration and curiosity, "your guest is quite unexpected. He carries himself well, but I don't recall seeing him at any previous events." Sophia smiled, the kind of smile that disarmed even the most pointed inquiries. "Miguel isn't from our typical circles," she replied. "I find that his perspective brings a much-needed authenticity to my life." The woman raised an eyebrow but said nothing further. As she drifted away, Sophia turned to Miguel, who had overheard the exchange. "They're already digging," she muttered. Miguel chuckled softly. "Let them. The truth isn't exactly scandalous." "It doesn't have to be," Sophia said, her voice low. "They'll twist whatever they find to suit their narrative." Isabel's machinations. Meanwhile, Isabel observed from across the room, her sharp eyes trained on Sophia and Miguel. She had spent years cultivating her position as Fernando's confidant, ensuring that Sophia's influence waned. This new development, Sophia arriving with someone so self-assured yet unknown, was a threat to the control she had so carefully constructed. Discreetly, Isabel signaled to one of her close allies, a gossipy socialite named Marcia, who excelled at extracting information. "Find out everything you can about him," Isabel whispered as Marcia passed by. "I want to know where he's from, what he does, everything." Marcia nodded, disappearing into the crowd like a shadow. Isabel's lips curled into a calculated smile. If Miguel had any vulnerabilities, she would find them. A private conversation. Sophia and Miguel stepped onto the balcony to catch their breath. The cool night air was a welcome relief from the stifling atmosphere inside. Sophia leaned against the railing, her expression pensive as she gazed at the city below. "Does it ever get easier?" Miguel asked, breaking the silence. "What?" Sophia turned to him. "Pretending you don't care what they think," he clarified. Sophia sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "Not really, but you learn to fake it better over time." Miguel studied her for a moment. "You don't have to do this alone, you know. You brought me here for a reason." Sophia hesitated, then nodded. "I did, and you're doing better than I expected," he smirked. "That's high praise coming from you." They shared a quiet laugh, the tension between them easing. For the first time that evening, Sophia felt a flicker of hope. The final hours of the gala brought the traditional toast, where Fernando stood at the head of the room, Isabel by his side, to deliver a speech. Glasses clinked, and polite laughter rippled through the crowd as he recounted moments from his relationship with Isabel. Sophia stood near the back, Miguel at her side. Every word Fernando spoke felt like a dagger, a painful reminder of how distant they had become. She could feel Isabel's eyes on her, the satisfaction practically radiating from her smug smile. When the toast ended, the crowd broke into applause, and the evening shifted to mingling once more. Sophia took a deep breath, preparing to make her exit, when she noticed Marcia approaching. "Sophia, darling," Marcia cooed, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I just had the most interesting conversation with someone who recognized your guest." Sophia stiffened. "Oh, and what did they say?" Marcia's smile widened. "They mentioned that he used to work as an architecture student before, what was it? Financial difficulties led him to his current position." Miguel's jaw tightened, but he said nothing, allowing Sophia to take the lead. "And?" Sophia replied coolly. "That's hardly newsworthy." Marcia feigned surprise. "Of course not, darling. It's just unusual. But then, I suppose you've always been unconventional." Before Sophia could respond, Marcia slipped away, leaving an uncomfortable silence in her wake. Isabel's power play. Isabel seized the opportunity to strike. She approached with a glass of champagne in hand, her expression one of practiced concern. "Sophia, I hope you're enjoying the evening." "Immensely," Sophia replied, her tone clipped. Isabel glanced at Miguel, then back at Sophia. "I must say, your guest has sparked quite the conversation. It's brave of you to bring someone so refreshing." Miguel finally spoke, his voice steady. "It's a privilege to be here." Isabel's smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. "Indeed, though I imagine it must be overwhelming to step into such a different world." Sophia stepped forward, her voice icy. "Miguel belongs wherever he chooses to be. If that makes some people uncomfortable, perhaps they should reevaluate their own insecurities." The tension between the two women was palpable, drawing the attention of nearby guests. Isabel's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing more, retreating with a curt nod. Turning the tables. The incident could have derailed the evening, but Miguel's composed response and Sophia's defense shifted the narrative. Whispered comments turned from criticism to admiration. Guests began to see Sophia in a new light, not as a vulnerable heiress, but as someone willing to stand up for herself and those she valued. As the evening drew to a close, Fernando approached Sophia. His expression was unreadable, but his words carried a weight she hadn't expected. "You handled yourself well tonight." "Thank you," Sophia said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Fernando hesitated, then added, "Isabel can be assertive. Don't let her get to you." It wasn't the apology Sophia longed for, but it was something. She nodded, watching as he walked away. The sun crept over Sao Paulo's skyline the morning after the gala, casting a warm glow on the city's chaos below. Sophia sipped her coffee, the events of the previous evening replaying in her mind. Isabel's veiled insults, Marcia's intrusive comments, and her father's half-hearted acknowledgement all swirled together like a storm threatening to unravel her. The only bright spot had been Miguel's unwavering support. His calm under pressure had steadied her in moments when she wanted to crumble. But this isn't over, she thought, her fingers tightening around her coffee mug. Isabel wouldn't stop. If anything, the night's events had likely emboldened her. A knock at the door pulled Sophia from her thoughts. Miguel stood in the doorway, his expression neutral, but his presence grounding. "Morning," he said. "I figured you'd want to debrief." Sophia gestured for him to enter. That's one way to put it. They sat across from each other, the air heavy with unspoken thoughts. "You handled yourself well last night," Miguel began, his tone measured. "But Isabel's not going to let this go." Sophia nodded. "I know." "She's already digging into your background, trying to find something she can twist into a scandal." Miguel shrugged. "Let her. There's not much to dig up. I've lived a simple life." "Simple doesn't mean safe," Sophia replied, her eyes narrowing. "She'll twist anything to suit her narrative." Discovering Isabel's strategy. Determined to stay ahead of Isabel, Sophia decided to gather her own information. She reached out to an old acquaintance, Lucas, who worked in corporate investigations. Over lunch at a discreet cafe, she laid out her concerns. "Isabel's dangerous," Sophia explained. "She's been manipulating my father for years, slowly isolating him from anyone who might challenge her." Lucas leaned back, his brow furrowed. "And you think she's digging into this Miguel guy to discredit you?" "I don't think." "I know," Sophia said firmly. "I need to know what she's planning before she can use it against me." Lucas nodded. "I'll see what I can find. But be careful, Sophia. Isabel's smart. She won't leave an obvious trail." Miguel's perspective. While Sophia strategized, Miguel returned to his modest apartment in Villa Madalena. Sitting at his small kitchen table, he opened his laptop and began drafting a letter. It was addressed to the architecture firm he had left years ago when his family's financial struggles forced him to abandon his studies. The words came slowly, each sentence laden with the weight of his past. He had spent years trying to bury the dreams he once had, but Sophia's determination was infectious. If she could face her demons, maybe he could too. He set the letter aside, his thoughts drifting back to the gala. The way Sophia had stood up for him, unflinching in the face of Isabel's subtle attacks, had left an impression. She was fighting battles far larger than he had realized, and for reasons he couldn't yet articulate, he wanted to help her win. A breakthrough. 2 days later, Lucas called Sophia. "I found something," he said, his voice tinged with urgency. "Isabel's been covering her tracks well, but there are whispers about her pressuring suppliers to cut ties with companies linked to you." Sophia's stomach twisted. "She's trying to sabotage my reputation and business." "Exactly," Lucas confirmed. "She's playing the long game, trying to isolate you professionally and personally." Sophia clenched her fists. "Thank you, Lucas. Keep digging." Armed with the information from Lucas, Sophia decided it was time to confront Isabel directly. She couldn't afford to let Isabel's machinations fester unchecked. The opportunity came at a charity auction hosted by one of Fernando's business partners. The event was another display of wealth and influence, with guests mingling over cocktails and bidding on items that could fund entire neighborhoods. Sophia arrived early, her posture poised, and her gaze steely. Miguel was by her side, dressed impeccably once again, his presence as steadying as ever. As they entered the grand hall, whispers rippled through the crowd. Sophia ignored them, her focus singular: Isabel. It didn't take long to spot her. Dressed in a shimmering silver gown, Isabel commanded attention effortlessly, her laugh echoing across the room. Sophia's blood simmered, but she kept her expression neutral as she approached. "Isabel," Sophia said, her voice calm but firm. "A word." Isabel turned, her smile widening in mock surprise. "Sophia, how lovely to see you. I didn't expect you here tonight." "Clearly," Sophia replied, her tone cutting. "Let's talk somewhere private." The confrontation. They stepped into a quieter corner of the venue, away from prying eyes, but not completely out of sight. Miguel lingered at a distance, his presence reassuring but unobtrusive. "I know what you've been doing," Sophia began, her voice low but steady. "The suppliers, the rumors. You've been working to isolate me, to turn everyone against me." Isabel's expression didn't falter. Instead, she tilted her head, feigning innocence. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't insult my intelligence," Sophia snapped. "I've already connected the dots, and I'm warning you, this ends now." Isabel's smile faded, replaced by a cold, calculating glare. "You've always been so dramatic, Sophia. Maybe that's why your father has such little faith in you." The words stung, but Sophia refused to let them show. "My father may not see through you yet, but others will. Your games won't hold up forever." Isabel leaned in, her voice a whisper. "Be careful, Sophia. You're playing with fire." Sophia stood her ground. "So are you." The aftermath. As Sophia rejoined the crowd, her heart raced with adrenaline. She had taken a risk confronting Isabel so openly, but it was a necessary step. Beside her, Miguel gave her a questioning look. "How'd it go?" he asked. She didn't deny it, Sophia said, her voice quiet. "But she's not backing down." Miguel nodded, his jaw tightening. "Then neither will we." Sophia glanced at him, a flicker of gratitude softening her features. "Thank you, Miguel, for everything." He met her gaze, his expression earnest. "You're not alone in this." For the first time in days, Sophia felt a glimmer of hope. The battle was far from over, but she wasn't fighting alone. The days following Sophia's confrontation with Isabel were marked by a mix of urgency and reflection. Sophia knew she couldn't keep reacting to Isabel's moves. She needed to take control of her own narrative. But how? Her thoughts returned repeatedly to Miguel. His steady presence during the gala and their candid conversations had opened her eyes to his unique perspective. He wasn't just a chauffeur. He was a problem solver, someone who understood hard work and resilience in ways most people in her social circle never could. As she sat at her desk, staring at a blank notebook, an idea began to form. She didn't just need to counter Isabel's influence. She needed to build something that showcased her independence and vision. Something sustainable, something meaningful, she muttered aloud. Her phone buzzed, and she glanced at the screen. It was Miguel. "Miss Marquez," he said when she picked up. "You mentioned you needed to brainstorm some ideas. Mind if I drop by?" Sophia smiled faintly. "Come by. I could use a fresh perspective, a shared brainstorm." Miguel arrived within the hour, carrying 2 cups of coffee from Sophia's favorite cafe. "Thought you might need this," he said, handing her one as he took a seat across from her. "Perfect timing," Sophia replied, setting the cup aside. "I've been trying to figure out my next move, but nothing feels right." Miguel leaned back, his eyes scanning the room. "What do you want to accomplish? Forget Isabel for a moment. What would you do if she wasn't in the pictures?" The question caught Sophia off guard. She had been so consumed by Isabel's actions that she hadn't considered her own aspirations in a long time. "I want to create something real," she said slowly. "Something that reflects who I am, not who people expect me to be. But it also needs to prove that I don't need my father's name or Isabel's approval to succeed." Miguel nodded thoughtfully. "You mentioned before that you've always been interested in sustainability. Why not build something around that? A business, maybe. Something modern, innovative, but practical?" Sophia's eyes lit up. "Like a sustainable design company. We could focus on eco-friendly materials, energy-efficient architecture." "You already have the connections," Miguel added. "And with your background, you'd bring credibility. It's bold, but it's achievable." Sophia grabbed her notebook and began scribbling ideas, her excitement growing with each word. Miguel leaned in, offering suggestions and refining her thoughts. By the time they were finished, the notebook was filled with notes and sketches, the foundation of something tangible. Sophia leaned back, a smile spreading across her face. "This could work," she said, more to herself than to Miguel. "It will work," he replied. "And I'll help you." Gathering allies. The next step was assembling a team. Sophia knew she couldn't do alone, and while Miguel had offered his support, they needed professionals who shared her vision. She reached out to a few trusted contacts, including Clara, an old university friend with expertise in sustainable development. When Sophia explained her idea over lunch, Clara's eyes widened. "This is brilliant," she said. "The market is ready for something like this, especially if you focus on luxury with conscience." "I'm in." With Clara on board, Sophia felt her confidence grow. She began mapping out a timeline, assigning tasks, and identifying potential investors. Isabel's interference still loomed, but for the first time, Sophia felt she was moving forward on her own terms. The following weeks were a blur of activity. Sophia threw herself into the project, working late nights and early mornings to refine their pitch. Miguel became her unofficial partner, offering insights and solutions that kept the momentum going. One evening, as they worked in Sophia's apartment, Miguel glanced at the clock. "You've been at this for hours. You need a break." Sophia looked up from her laptop, her eyes bleary but determined. "I can't stop now. We're so close." Miguel crossed his arms. "You won't get far if you burn out. Come on, dinner's on me." She hesitated, then sighed. "Fine, but only if we keep brainstorming." They ended up at a cozy neighborhood restaurant, a far cry from the lavish venue Sophia was used to. The simple decor and warm atmosphere felt refreshing, and Sophia found herself relaxing for the first time in days. "This is nice," she admitted as they waited for their food. Miguel smirked. "Told you. Sometimes the simple things are what you need." Their conversation drifted from business to personal topics. Sophia shared stories from her childhood, moments when her father had been her hero before their relationship soured. Miguel, in turn, opened up about his struggles, his family's financial troubles, the dreams he had put on hold, and the pride he took in his work despite its challenges. By the time they left the restaurant, Sophia felt a deeper understanding of Miguel and a growing appreciation for his unwavering support. Challenges arise. As the project gained traction, so did the challenges. Isabel, sensing Sophia's momentum, began leveraging her connections to create obstacles. Suppliers hesitated to commit, and one potential investor suddenly withdrew without explanation. "She's behind this," Sophia said angrily, slamming her notebook shut after another setback. Miguel placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure out. She can't stop us if we stay focused." But staying focused wasn't easy. The constant interference wore on Sophia, and even Miguel began to feel the strain. Yet, every time they hit a roadblock, they found a way around it, whether through creative problem-solving or sheer determination. The first pitch. The culmination of their efforts came at a small investor meeting arranged by Clara. Sophia stood before the group, her nerves tightly wound, but her resolve unshaken. She presented their vision with passion and clarity, emphasizing the growing demand for sustainable luxury and their innovative approach to meeting that demand. When she finished, The room was silent for a moment before one of the investors spoke. "It's ambitious, but I like it. I'll back you." Relief washed over Sophia as more investors nodded in agreement. By the end of the meeting, they had secured enough funding to launch their first project. As they left the venue, Sophia turned to Miguel, her smile radiant. "We did it." Miguel grinned. "You did it. I just gave you a little push." "You gave me more than that," Sophia replied, her voice sincere. "I couldn't have done this without you." The atmosphere in the conference room buzzed with anticipation as Sophia and Miguel prepared to pitch their vision to a panel of high-profile investors. Clara stood nearby, reviewing last-minute details on her tablet, while Miguel adjusted the projector settings. Sophia paced back and forth, her notebook clutched tightly in her hands. "You've got this," Miguel said, his calm voice cutting through her nerves. Sophia stopped pacing and looked at him. What if they say no? What if all of this was for nothing? Miguel gave her a reassuring smile. "They won't say no. And even if they do, it's not the end. You've built something real. Sophia, people will see that." His confidence steadied her, and she nodded, taking a deep breath. When investors began to arrive, Sophia greeted each of them with poise, noting their sharp suits and discerning expressions. The room was filled with heavyweights in real estate, environmental development, and venture capital, people who could make or break her dream with a single decision. As everyone settled into their seats, Sophia stepped to the front of the room, her heart pounding. She clicked the remote, and the first slide of her presentation lit up the screen. The pitch. "Thank you all for being here today," Sophia began, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "I'm here to present a vision, not just for a business, but for a new way of thinking about sustainability and luxury." She outlined the core principles of their sustainable design company: eco-friendly materials, energy-efficient architecture, and innovative designs that catered to high-end clients without compromising environmental integrity. The investors listened intently as Sophia explained their plans for sourcing materials, partnering with local artisans, and creating structures that harmonized with their surroundings. Miguel joined her at key points, providing technical details and answering questions with the calm authority that had become his trademark. One investor, a stern-faced man named Roberto, leaned forward. "This all sounds ambitious, but how do you plan to compete with established firms already operating in this space?" Sophia met his gaze without hesitation. "By offering something they can't, authenticity and innovation. We're not just following trends, we're setting them. And we're committed to working closely with our clients to create designs that reflect their values as much as their lifestyles." Roberto nodded, seemingly satisfied. Another investor, a sharp-eyed woman named Helena, raised her hand. "How do you plan to ensure your suppliers meet your sustainability standards? It's one thing to promise eco-friendly materials, but another to deliver." Miguel stepped in. "We've already begun vetting suppliers and forming relationships with local providers. Our contracts include strict guidelines, and we'll conduct regular audits to ensure compliance. Transparency is at the core of our approach." A critical moment. As the pitch concluded, the room fell silent. Sophia's palms were damp, but she kept her expression calm, waiting for the investor's verdict. Helena was the first to speak. "I'm impressed. It's clear you've put thought into this, and the passion you bring to the table is undeniable. I'm in." Relief washed over Sophia, but she remained composed. Roberto nodded. "It's a bold concept, but bold ideas often lead to great success. Count me in as well." One by one, the other investors expressed their support. By the end of the meeting, Sophia and Miguel had secured more than enough funding to launch their first project. Celebration and reflection. Later that evening, Sophia invited Miguel and Clara to her apartment to celebrate. The three of them shared a modest bottle of wine, toasting to their success. "To the future," Clara said, raising her glass. "To teamwork," Miguel added. Sophia smiled. "To proving that we're capable of more than anyone ever gave us credit for." As the night wore on, the conversation turned personal. Miguel shared more about his dream of becoming an architect and the sacrifices he had made for his family. Clara spoke about her struggles as a woman in a male-dominated field. Sophia listened, feeling a deep sense of connection with them both. For the first time in years, she felt surrounded by people who believed in her, not because of her family name, but because of her vision. The euphoria of their success didn't last long. As Sophia and her team dove into the logistics of their first project, obstacles began to emerge. The first hurdle came in the form of supply chain issues. One of their key suppliers, a company specializing in reclaimed wood, suddenly backed out of their agreement, citing unexpected complications. "This has Isabel written all over it," Clara muttered as she slammed her laptop shut. Sophia rubbed her temples. "She's not going to stop, is she?" "No," Miguel said, his voice firm. "But neither are we." Adapting to adversity, determined not to let Isabel derail their plans, Sophia and her team scrambled to find alternative suppliers. Miguel suggested reaching out to smaller, local providers who might be willing to collaborate on a smaller scale. "It's riskier," Clara pointed out. "We'll have to vet them thoroughly." "It's worth it," Sophia said. "If we succeed, it'll show that we can adapt and still deliver on our promises." The process was grueling, involving countless phone calls, site visits, and negotiations. But slowly, the pieces began to fall into place. Isabel's interference. Meanwhile, Isabel escalated her efforts. She spread rumors among potential clients, implying that Sophia's business was untrustworthy and inexperienced. One morning, Sophia received an email from a high-profile client canceling their consultation without explanation. "She's trying to isolate us," Sophia said, her voice tight with frustration. Miguel placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll show them who we really are. Actions speak louder than words." A small victory. Their persistence paid off when they secured a partnership with a local carpenter who specialized in crafting furniture from recycled materials. His passion for sustainability aligned perfectly with their vision, and his work added a unique touch to their project. Sophia visited his workshop with Miguel, marveling at the intricate designs he created from what others would consider waste. "This is exactly what we need," she said, running her fingers over a beautifully crafted table. The carpenter, a soft-spoken man named Eduardo, smiled. "I'm honored to be part of this." A growing bond. As Sophia and Miguel worked side by side, their partnership deepened. They had always shared mutual respect, but now there was something more, an unspoken understanding that neither dared to acknowledge fully. One evening, as they reviewed blueprints late into the night, Miguel looked up from his work. "You've changed, you know?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Oh, how so?" "You're more confident," he said, "more sure of yourself. It's inspiring." She smiled softly. "I think I've had good company." The launch of Sophia's first sustainable project was just weeks away, but the closer they got to their debut, the more intense the challenges became. Rumors, delays, and whispered doubts swirled around her team like a storm. It was clear that Isabel's influence extended further than they had anticipated. One particularly gut-wrenching blow came when Sophia received an email from a longtime ally, Andre, a supplier who had previously supported her vision. "I'm sorry, Sophia," the email read. "I've been advised by several colleagues to reconsider our partnership. I simply can't risk the fallout." Sophia's fingers hovered over her keyboard, frustration building in her chest. This wasn't just a business decision, it was a betrayal. Andre had been one of the first to endorse her idea, and his sudden withdrawal left her feeling blindsided. She slammed her laptop shut, fighting the wave of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. "Isabel's getting to everyone," she muttered, finding strength in unity. Miguel found her sitting on the balcony later that evening, her knees pulled to her chest as she stared at the city lights. "Another supplier backed out," he guessed, his voice gentle. Sophia nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Miguel sat beside her, silent for a moment before saying, "You're stronger than this, Sophia. You've faced worse and come out on top." She turned to him, her eyes glistening. "I don't know if I can keep fighting her. Every step forward feels like 2 steps back." Miguel's gaze was steady. "You're not alone in this. Clara, Eduardo, your investors, We all believe in you. And I do too. You've built something incredible, and no one can take that away from you." His words reignited a spark of determination in Sophia. She straightened her shoulders, nodding slowly. "You're right. We've come too far to let her win." A new ally emerges. The next day, Sophia received an unexpected call from Helena, one of the investors who had supported her pitch. "I've been hearing some troubling rumors about your project," Helena began, "but I don't believe them. If anything, this only makes me want to support you more." Sophia's breath caught. "Thank you, Helena. That means more than I can say." Helena's tone turned firm. "I didn't back you because I thought it would be easy. I backed you because I saw your potential. Keep going. And if you need additional resources, let me know." The conversation left Sophia feeling buoyed. Despite Isabel's efforts, there were still people who believed in her. A tense encounter. That evening, Sophia attended a networking event where Isabel was also present. The room was filled with influential figures from the business world, and the tension between the two women was palpable. Sophia caught Isabel's eye from across the room. The older woman's lips curved into a smirk, but Sophia refused to back down. She approached with deliberate steps, her chin held high. "Isabel," Sophia said, her voice steady. "You've been busy lately." Isabel's smile widened. "Just keeping myself occupied. You know how it is. You might find it more productive to focus on your own endeavors." Sophia replied coolly. "Because no matter what you do, I'm not giving up." Isabel's expression hardened, but she quickly masked it with a laugh. "You always did have a flair for dramatics, Sophia. Let's see if it gets you anywhere." The weeks leading up to the launch were a whirlwind of activity. Sophia and her team worked tirelessly to finalize every detail of their first project, a boutique eco-lodge nestled in the hills outside Sao Paulo. The lodge's design incorporated reclaimed wood, solar panels, and water-saving technologies, making it a model of sustainable luxury. Amid the chaos, Sophia and Miguel found themselves spending more time together. Late nights in the office turned into quiet conversations over coffee, and their professional camaraderie began to deepen into something more personal. An unexpected dinner. One evening, after a particularly long day, Miguel suggested they take a break. "You need to eat something that isn't takeout," he said with a teasing smile. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Are you offering to cook?" Miguel shrugged. "Why not? I'm not a gourmet chef, but I can handle pasta." Curiosity piqued, Sophia agreed. They ended up at Miguel's modest apartment, a stark contrast to her spacious home, but warm and inviting nonetheless. As Miguel prepared dinner, Sophia wandered the small space, taking in the personal touches. Photographs of his family adorned the walls, and books on architecture filled a corner shelf. "This is nice," she said, settling onto a bar stool. Miguel glanced over his shoulder. "Not quite as glamorous as your world, but it works for me." "It's real," Sophia replied softly. They ate at his small kitchen table, the meal simple but delicious. As they talked, Sophia found herself opening up about her childhood, the pressure of growing up in her father's shadow, her mother's absence, and the moments when she had felt completely alone. Miguel listened intently, his gaze steady. "You're not that person anymore," he said when she finished. "You've taken control of your life. That's something to be proud of." Sophia smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. "I wouldn't have made it this far without you." Rumors and confessions. Their growing bond didn't go unnoticed. Whispers about Sophia and Miguel's relationship began circulating among her social circle, fueled by Isabel's subtle insinuations. One afternoon, Clara approached Sophia with a concerned expression. "People are talking," she said. "They're saying Miguel is more than just your partner in business." Sophia's cheeks flushed. "Let them talk. I don't owe anyone an explanation." Clara hesitated. "I just don't want you to lose focus. You've worked so hard to get here." Sophia nodded, appreciating Clara's concern, but unwilling to let gossip dictate her actions. A shared moment. As the launch date approached, Sophia and Miguel found themselves alone in the Eco Lodge one evening, finalizing last-minute details. The space was quiet, the only sounds coming from the wind rustling through the trees outside. Sophia stood by the large windows, admiring the view. "It's beautiful," she said. Miguel joined her, his voice soft. "So are you?" She turned to him, her breath catching. For a moment, the unspoken tension between them hung in the air. Then, without thinking, Sophia leaned in, her lips brushing against his. The kiss was brief but electric, leaving them both slightly breathless. Sophia began, but Miguel cut her off with a small smile. "It's okay," he said. "We don't have to figure it out right now." Sophia nodded, her heart racing. Whatever this was, it felt like the beginning of something she wasn't ready to name, but couldn't ignore. The eco-lodge was nearly complete, and Sophia could almost taste victory. The walls gleamed with reclaimed wood polish to perfection. The solar panels glinted in the sunlight, and the landscaping was an oasis of native plants. Every detail reflected months of hard work and unwavering determination. Yet Sophia knew better than to relax. Isabel wouldn't let her success go unchallenged. One afternoon, as Sophia and Miguel met with Clara to finalize the guest list for the grand opening, Sophia's phone buzzed with a notification. It was a forwarded article from a business blog, its headline impossible to miss. Heiress's sustainable venture clouded by allegations of nepotism and unethical practices. Sophia's blood ran cold as she skimmed the article. It accused her of leveraging her father's influence to secure investors, claimed her team had exploited underpaid labor, and suggested that her project was a vanity endeavor rather than a legitimate business. "This is Isabel," Sophia said through gritted teeth, tossing her phone onto the table. Clara frowned. "It's baseless, but the timing is awful. Right before the launch." Miguel's jaw tightened. "She's trying to scare off your guests and investors. We need to counter this immediately." Damage control. The team sprang into action. Clara drafted a formal statement refuting the allegations, while Miguel reached out to their suppliers and investors to ensure they weren't swayed by the rumors. Sophia recorded a heartfelt video addressing the claims, emphasizing her commitment to transparency and sustainability. The video quickly gained traction, garnering support from those who had followed Sophia's journey. Messages of encouragement poured in, and a few prominent figures in the sustainable design community publicly voiced their backing. Still, the article had sown seeds of doubt, and Sophia knew she couldn't afford even a single misstep at the grand opening. An unexpected betrayal. The night before the launch, Sophia received another blow. A member of her team, Marcio, confessed to leaking internal documents to Isabel in exchange for money. "I didn't think she'd use them like this," Marcio said, his voice trembling. Sophia stared at him, her anger tempered by disappointment. "Why, Marcio? We trusted you." "I needed the money," he muttered, unable to meet her gaze. Miguel stepped forward, his voice cold. "You've jeopardized everything we've worked for." Marcio slumped in his chair. "I'm sorry. I'll resign immediately." Sophia sighed. "No, you'll stay and help us fix this. You owe us that much." The day of the grand opening dawned bright and clear, the sunlight casting a golden glow over the eco-lodge. Sophia arrived early, her nerves coiled like springs. She walked the property with Miguel, double-checking every detail. "Everything looks perfect," Miguel said, his voice steady. Sophia nodded, but her mind buzzed with what-ifs. What if the guests didn't come? What if the article had done irreparable damage? "Hey," Miguel said, gently gripping her shoulder. "You've done everything you can. Now it's time to let the world see what you've built." His confidence steadied her, and she took a deep breath. "You're right. Let's do this." The grand opening. The first guests arrived just after noon, their curiosity evident as they stepped onto the property. Sophia greeted them with a warm smile, her heart pounding as she explained the lodge's features and design principles. To her relief, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Guests marveled at the seamless blend of luxury and sustainability, praising the innovative use of materials and the attention to detail. As the day progressed, more guests arrived, including Helena, and several other investors. Their presence was a quiet reassurance that not everyone had been swayed by Isabel's tactics. A public success. The highlight of the day was a speech Sophia delivered in the main dining hall, surrounded by large windows that framed the breathtaking view of the hills. She spoke about the journey that had led her here, the challenges she had faced, and the vision that had driven her. "This project isn't just about creating something beautiful," she said, her voice steady. "It's about proving that sustainability and luxury can coexist, that we can innovate without compromising our values. This is just the beginning." The room erupted into applause, and for the first time in months, Sophia felt a sense of triumph. Isabel's appearance. Just as Sophia was beginning to relax, Isabel arrived. She swept into the lodge with her usual air of superiority, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on Sophia. "Well, this is impressive," Isabel said, her tone dripping with insincerity. "I wasn't sure you'd pull it off." Sophia squared her shoulders. "It's more than I expected, too. It's exceeded every challenge thrown at it." Isabel's smile faltered. "Enjoy it while it lasts, Sophia. The business world is ruthless." "So am I," Sophia replied, her voice calm but firm. Isabel's expression darkened, but she said nothing more, retreating into the crowd. A quiet moment. As the sun set and the last guests trickled out, Sophia and Miguel found themselves alone on the lodge's terrace. The view was breathtaking, the hills bathed in golden light. "We did it," Sophia said, her voice tinged with disbelief. Miguel smiled. "You did it. I just helped." Sophia turned to him, her expression soft. "You did more than that, Miguel. I couldn't have done this without you." Their eyes met, the weight of everything they had been through hanging between them. Before she could second-guess herself, Sophia leaned in, her lips meeting his in a kiss that was both tender and full of promise. When they pulled back, Miguel's smile widened. "So, what's next?" Sophia grinned. "The world, Miguel. One project at a time." The success of the Eco-Lodge was a triumph that reverberated throughout Sao Paulo's business and social circles. Headlines praised Sophia's bold vision and Miguel's innovative contributions. The whispers of doubt and allegations of nepotism faded into the background as the project stood as a testament to hard work and determination. But Sophia knew that success was never the end of a story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. With the grand opening behind them, it was time to strengthen their foundation and ensure that the business could withstand future challenges, especially with Isabel lurking in the shadows. A surprise invitation. One morning, as Sophia worked in her sunlit office, she received an unexpected call from her father. "Good morning, Sophia," Fernando said, his voice unusually cordial. Sophia sat up straighter, surprised. "Good morning. To what do I owe this call?" "I've been following the success of your lodge," he said. "It's impressive." The words caught her off guard. Fernando rarely gave compliments, and this one felt significant. "Thank you," Sophia replied cautiously. "I'd like to invite you to a family dinner," he continued. "Just a small gathering. Isabel will be there, of course, but I think it's time we all had a conversation." Sophia's grip on the phone tightened. She wasn't sure what Fernando's intentions were, but the opportunity to confront Isabel on neutral ground was too important to pass up. "I'll be there," she said, preparing for the dinner. When Sophia told Miguel about the invitation, his concern was immediate. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" he asked. "Isabel will have her guard up, and she's already proven she'll do anything to undermine you." "I know," Sophia admitted, "but this could be my chance to make my case to my father without Isabel controlling the narrative." Miguel nodded reluctantly. "Just be careful. You've come too far to let her drag you down again." The family dinner. The dinner was held at Fernando's sprawling estate, a place Sophia hadn't visited in years. Memories of her childhood flooded back as she walked through the grand entrance, but the warmth she once associated with the house had long since faded. Fernando greeted her with a polite smile, his handshake firm but distant. Isabel, on the other hand, was all icy charm, her eyes scanning Sophia as though searching for weaknesses. "Welcome, Sophia," Isabel said, her voice smooth. "It's been too long." "Not long enough," Sophia replied under her breath, earning a chuckle from Miguel, who had insisted on accompanying her. Dinner was a tense affair. Fernando asked polite questions about the lodge, nodding in approval as Sophia described their plans for future projects. Isabel occasionally chimed in, her comments laced with subtle jabs. The turning point. As dessert was served, Sophia decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. "Father," she began, her tone steady but firm. "I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, but I need to speak openly about something." Fernando raised an eyebrow but gestured for her to continue. Sophia turned to Isabel. "Your constant interference in my life and my work has to stop. You've spread rumors, sabotaged my business, and tried to turn people against me. I won't stand for it anymore." Isabel's eyes narrowed, but before she could respond, Fernando held up a hand. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice cold. "Of course not," Isabel said smoothly. "Sophia is simply misinterpreting my actions. I've only ever wanted to support the family." "That's not true," Sophia said, her voice rising. "I have proof of your involvement in the rumors and the sabotage. I've stayed silent for too long, but I won't let you continue to manipulate this family." The room fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, Fernando sighed and leaned back in his chair. "I need to think about this," he said. "But Sophia, if what you say is true, then you have my support." Aftermath. As they left the estate, Miguel placed a reassuring hand on Sophia's back. "You were brave to confront them like that. It's not easy to stand up to someone like Isabel." Sophia exhaled, her shoulders relaxing slightly. "It had to be done. I'm tired of letting her control the narrative." Miguel smiled. "You're stronger than you realize." With the confrontation behind her, Sophia threw herself into planning their next project. She and her team decided to build a community center in a low-income neighborhood, blending sustainability with social impact. The project would provide workshops on eco-friendly practices and job training for local residents. Winning the community's trust. The community center project required more than just funding and design. It required the trust and cooperation of a neighborhood. Sophia and Miguel spent weeks meeting with local leaders, listening to their concerns, and adjusting their plans to reflect the community's needs. One evening, as they sat in a small cafe after a particularly productive meeting, Sophia leaned back in her chair, a rare smile on her face. "This feels different," she said. Miguel raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" "Better," she replied. "This isn't just about proving myself or fighting Isabel. This is about making a real difference." Miguel nodded. "It suits you." Isabel's downfall. Meanwhile, Isabel's influence began to wane. Fernando, true to his word, launched an investigation into Sophia's claims. The findings painted a damning picture of Isabel's manipulations, and Fernando quietly began distancing himself from her. Sophia learned of this during a phone call with her father. "I owe you an apology," Fernando said. "I should have seen through Isabel sooner. She's no longer part of the company's affairs." Sophia felt a wave of relief, but kept her tone measured. "Thank you, Father. That means a lot." Miguel's big decision. As the community center project gained momentum, Miguel received unexpected news. A prominent architecture firm had seen his work on the Eco Lodge and offered him a position. When he told Sophia, she froze. "That's amazing," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "It's a great opportunity," Miguel admitted, "but it means I'd have to leave." Sophia's heart sank, but she forced a smile. "You should take it. You've earned this." Miguel studied her, his expression unreadable. "Maybe, but I'm not sure I want to leave everything behind." Their eyes met, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging between them. A celebration of growth. The community center's opening day was a celebration of unity and progress. Local residents mingled with investors and volunteers, their smiles reflecting the success of the project. As Sophia stood on the stage to deliver her speech, she spotted Miguel in the crowd, his gaze steady and proud. "This project is proof that when we work together, we can create something truly meaningful," she said. After the event, Miguel approached her. "You're incredible, you know that." Sophia smiled. "I had good company." As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the city, Sophia and Miguel walked side by side, ready to face whatever the future held. The days after the community center's grand opening were a whirlwind of emotions for Sophia. The project had been a resounding success, and her name was finally synonymous with achievement, innovation, and resilience. Yet, her mind remained preoccupied with Miguel's news. The thought of him leaving was a weight she couldn't ignore, though she hadn't yet mustered the courage to fully address it. Miguel's dilemma. Miguel spent his days balancing work on the community center's final adjustments and pondering the offer from the architecture firm. It was a chance to revive his dream, a dream he had shelved years ago. But the idea of walking away from Sophia's projects and their burgeoning connection gave him pause. Late one evening, he found himself at the community center, inspecting the solar panel installation. The sound of footsteps made him turn, and he wasn't surprised to see Sophia approaching. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, giving her a small smile. She shrugged, leaning against the railing beside him. "There's too much on my mind." "You." "Same," he admitted, glancing at her. "This place, it's special. We've built something that matters." "We have," she said softly. Then, after a long pause, she added, "Are you going to take the jobs?" Miguel hesitated, unsure how to respond. "It's a big opportunity, but leaving, it doesn't feel right." Sophia looked at him, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling within her. "I want you to stay, Miguel. Not just for the projects, but for me. I've never said this before, but I need you more than I realized." The vulnerability in her voice surprised them both. Miguel reached for her hand, his grip firm yet gentle. "Sophia, you've never needed anyone to make you strong. You've done all of this on your own, but I want to stay for you." Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the world seemed to fade. Isabel's final move. Unbeknownst to them, Isabel was still grasping at straws to regain her footing. Despite Fernando's decision to distance himself from her, she had one last card to play. She approached a prominent journalist known for sensational exposés, offering insider information about Sophia's business dealings. The journalist, intrigued but cautious, agreed to meet Isabel under the condition that the information was verified. Isabel's plan was simple: plant enough seeds of doubt to tarnish Sophia's reputation. What she didn't anticipate was Fernando's quiet intervention. Having finally seen through Isabel's schemes, Fernando intercepted her efforts, ensuring the journalist never published the story. When Isabel realized her plan had failed, she confronted Fernando at his office. "You've turned your back on me," Isabel hissed, her usual polished demeanor cracking. Fernando's gaze was cold. "I gave you more chances than you deserved. You're finished here, Isabel." A father's gesture. A few days later, Fernando invited Sophia to lunch, a rare gesture that immediately made her suspicious. She arrived at the upscale restaurant, her guard up, but her curiosity piqued. "I wanted to talk about the future," Fernando began after they ordered. "Your future?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "What about it?" "I made mistakes," he admitted, his tone uncharacteristically soft. "I let Isabel's influence cloud my judgment. But I've been watching you, Sophia. You've proven yourself in ways I never imagined. I want to support you, truly support you." Sophia's chest tightened. The validation she had craved for so long was finally within reach, but she wasn't sure how to feel about it. "I appreciate that, Father," she said carefully, "but I've built my success without you. I don't need your approval anymore." Fernando nodded, a flicker of pride crossing his face. "I know, and that's what makes me proud. But I hope we can move forward, not as business partners, but as family." Sophia hesitated before nodding. "I'd like that. A proposal of a different kind." That evening, as Sophia reflected on her father's words, Miguel arrived at her apartment, a small box in hand. "What's this?" she asked, taking the box with a curious expression. "Open it," he said, his tone light, but his eyes serious. Inside was a beautifully crafted miniature model of a building, sleek, modern, and eco-friendly. "It's a design I've been working on," Miguel explained, "for our next project. If you'll have me as your partner, officially." Sophia's heart swelled. "Of course I will," she said, her smile wide. "But only if we're partners in more than just business." Miguel grinned, stepping closer. That was the plan. The next few months were a whirlwind of growth and change. With the community center thriving and the eco-lodge serving as a model for sustainable luxury, Sophia and Miguel began planning their next venture, an eco-friendly housing complex that would cater to middle-income families, proving that sustainability wasn't just for the wealthy. A collaborative process. The project required intense collaboration. Sophia's business acumen and connections paired seamlessly with Miguel's architectural expertise. Clara joined the team as their sustainability consultant, bringing her trademark practicality and energy to the table. They spent long hours in brainstorming sessions, sketching designs, and meeting with potential investors. The project was ambitious, but their shared passion made the work exhilarating. Personal growth and reconciliation. Amid the professional triumphs, Sophia took steps to rebuild her relationship with her father. They began meeting regularly, slowly bridging the emotional distance that had defined their relationship for years. One evening, as they sat on the terrace of Fernando's estate, he surprised her with a gift, a framed photo of them from her childhood, taken during a rare moment of joy. "I kept this to remind me of better times," he said. "I hope we can create more of them." Sophia smiled, her eyes misty. "So do I." An unexpected opportunity. As construction on the housing complex began, Sophia received a surprising offer. A prominent university invited her to give a lecture on sustainable business practices. The opportunity was daunting, but Miguel encouraged her to accept. "You've earned this," he said. "You're a leader in this field now." The lecture was a resounding success, solidifying Sophia's reputation as a trailblazer in sustainability. The grand opening. The housing complex's grand opening was a celebration of everything Sophia and Miguel had worked toward. Families toured the beautifully designed homes, marveling at the blend of affordability and eco-consciousness. As Sophia stood on the podium to deliver her speech, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. "This project is proof that innovation and compassion can coexist," she said. "It's a testament to what's possible when we dare to dream beyond limitations." The applause was thunderous, but Sophia's focus was on Miguel, who stood in the crowd, his smile radiant. A quiet victory. That evening, Sophia and Miguel returned to the eco-lodge to celebrate privately. They sat on the terrace, the stars stretching endlessly above them. "To the future," Miguel said, raising a glass. "To us," Sophia replied, clinking her glass against his. As they gazed at the horizon, Sophia knew that their journey was far from over. But for the first time, she felt ready for whatever came next, with Miguel by her side. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Your support means a lot and helps us create more engaging stories for you. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What moment in the story impacted you the most? Was it the triumph at the grand opening, Sophia's bold confrontation with Isabel, or the growing connection between Sophia and Miguel? Share your favorite moment with us. We're also open to your ideas. What kind of stories would you like to see on the channel next? Whether it's about resilience, unexpected love, or overcoming challenges, your suggestions could inspire our next story. Thank you for being a part of our journey, and we look forward to seeing you in the next story.